Well, ladies and gentlemen, today we're figuring out if the Smashing Pumpkins are slop or not. How are we going to figure that out? First, we're going to figure out what is slop. We're going to define it. Second, how to detect it. Third, how much of their catalog is or is not slop. And then fourth, are they talented regardless? And then finally, if you and other people are going to think they are slop or not. Without further ado, let's get into it. Here is the Music Matrix. This is energy and or intensity from 0 to 11 on the upward axis. And over here we have catchiness, memorability, how iconic the song is over here, right? And so for any individual song, we can easily tell that if it is very catchy, if it's at least a 7 in terms of catchiness, and it is lower intensity, on the lower intensity range, and it's really catchy, it gets called pop. If it's lower intensity and it's not that catchy, if you're not a fan of low-intensity music or whatever subgenre it is, you're going to call it slop. It's either catchy and then it's called pop, or it's called slop. That's what people do. I'm just reporting the facts. Don't castrate me. Now, here, if you have high energy, high-intensity music and it's really catchy, it gets called rock. And so that's what you get up here. Now, you might be thinking, Connor, how do I detect if it's high energy or low energy? That's pretty easy to see. If someone's able to, music from like 0 to 3 might make people like go wind down for the night, get ready for bed, get sleepy. 4 to 7 might make people want to dance, move, kind of get a little energy. And then like 8 to 11, 7 to 11 is where people are like, I want to work out. I need to like sprint, really intense, gets you really amped up. That's where you see mosh pits. Here's dancing, here's sleeping. Sleeping, dancing, moshing. Basically that. But catchiness, see, this is the hard thing. How do we know if something's catchy or memorable or etc.? Oh my gosh, what's happening? Good thing we have a way to detect. Lots of things go into catchiness, but as you people know, the easiest one to give us a good gauge for catchiness is predictability. Now, if something is completely incoherent, like most prog music, self-described prog music, it's completely incoherent and it's likely to be entirely slop, right? Now, if something's on the other end of the predictability spectrum and the entire song is completely predictable, it gets called corny, right? And so it's likewise almost guaranteed to be slop. But if it's somewhere between being balanced and or zany, balanced being like, let's think, Back in Black by AC/DC and zany being Bohemian Rhapsody by Queen, if it's somewhere in that money zone, it still has let's say a 30% probability of being slop. It could still be slop. 30% probability of being something that might be just for fans of that genre or that artist. And the 30% probability, let's say maybe about, of being an actual hit quality song that everyone says at least a 7 in catchiness. And then you've got your smash hits, which are ultra rare. But now that we know what slop is when catchiness is lower than a 7. And then we know how to detect it by looking at how predictable a song is. We can get a good kind of gauge of how predictive it is. Now we come to how much of the Smashing Pumpkins, Billy Corgan's Pumpkins, how much of the pumpkins themselves are slop or not. So now let's take a look. This is the catalog on it. We can see, okay, no, but basically some people, this is where we get into explaining things, right? Now that we know what slop is, depending on how much slop there is across a catalog versus, how good the top 10 songs from an artist are versus blah, 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 blah. If the artist is talented, has a really good brand, there's all these different variables that go in. So the first one we're going to look at, that's going to let us know what people are going to think. Now, here's the thing. If we look at all of those and everyone says it's not slop, then it's probably not going to be considered slop by people. If some people go, or likewise, if everyone says, no, they suck, if you look at every single thing that people kind of like use as a gauge that any person could be using as their reason to think something good or bad, if everyone says it's bad, then they're all going to agree. If everyone says it's good, then they're all going to agree, right? You get into a problem when there's like something like an asymmetry. Like let's say you have a really good brand, you know what I mean? But you don't have catchy music. Like Anthrax is a great example. Anthrax does not have good songwriting, and I really wanted them to. Like Madhouse is a great song. I like that record anyways. But they're like they just couldn't stick the landing. And same with Slayer. Iconic brand, but they don't have the songwriting to back it up. And so hence why Megadeth and Metallica are like, everyone says, yeah, they're great. And then if you talk to anyone who's not a metal person, they're going to be like, Slayer sucks. You know what I mean? If they're a rock fan or a musician, a lot of times you'll see that. If they're a non-metal fan, they're going to be like, this is bad. Anyway, so now let's talk about Los Pumpkins. I was looking at all the different, and so some of these albums are higher energy, some of them are lower energy, right? I was looking at all of them overall, and we don't need to spend too much time on this because this is not where much interesting stuff happens with Los Pumpkins. Because I went through the albums, and it was really about a third, a third, a third. I forget Siamese Dream or whatever it is, Melancholy, yada yada yada. There's a bunch of good albums, that are really in terms of catchiness. I'm not saying all the songs are high energy, which is my preference, is more rock rather than pop. But they have probably a third of their catalog is rock songs and or pop songs. A third is stuff that maybe not everyone's going to listen to, but fans think is really good. And then maybe a third of it is just skippable stuff the fans don't even listen to. Think of a good example is like with Green Day. Like all these bands like do this where they just keep releasing albums and you're like, eh. The weird example is some of these bands keep releasing albums and they're good. You know what I mean? Like 30 years in, and you're like, okay, well, that's crazy. But that's usually where a lot of those duds come in. So on the catalog side, so this is how much of Smashing Pumpkins is Slop. They honestly don't have any problems there. The 50-50, I mean, they can still be seen as an all-time great. Like someone like Led Zeppelin probably has about a 50-50. Some people might say the Beatles have a 50-50 in their book. It really depends on kind of how you place certain things in the middle there, but it's, someone like Rage Against the Machine has album, maybe 5 skippable songs, the whole catalog, maybe 7 out of like 80. It's like, that's a really high bar. Now, if we're looking at the Pumpkins, let's look at these different categories. Brand, I think they have an insanely strong brand. Historical impact, present impact, aesthetic, stage design, outfits. They've been super iconic. They're up there on the, like Nirvana. They've really influenced culture, design, like shoegaze, all these movements. They continue to inspire people even in the TikTok era and have that boom. And then when we look at musicianship, we're looking at vibe, we're looking at skill. This is more like when people hear riffs by this band, they go, oh my God, I need to learn those on guitar. Is this someone's favorite thing for songwriting? Like, is this someone they really like when they think of their instrument or whatever? And so I think, and especially in like kind of like more of a alternative rock, shoegaze type of indie kind of scene, a lot of people go like, that's a song that made me pick up the guitar. Those riffs, those things make me buy pedals and be inspired to grab them. Okay, Los Pumpkins. So back to it. I got a phone call. Sorry about that. But so yeah, they definitely, musicianship, they get a green overall, which means good, right? Brand's good. And then the songwriting, they consistently are catchy. Now for me, where I get frustrated is they go from making catchy rock and pop to more just like pop. It turns into kind of like electronic pop type of thing. And so now we know they are talented, and they do have a relatively good catalog, but it's not a undeniable catalog. But then again, they have a significant number of undeniable albums, right? Like, I think a good example is Metallica not only has Metallica have undeniable songs on almost all of their records, and multiple per record, a lot of them, right? But they also have records that are like, that's a really good record. Like the Black Album is like a many, many bangers off it. And so you've got that with Melancholy and the Infinite Sadness. You've got that with friggin' Siamese Dream. You got a lot of that with the Pumpkins. Now, how do we actually place them on? Finally, are they Slop or not? Now here, I got my top 10 songs. If you've been watching other videos in the series, you'll see I have now made this easier to read. You are very welcome. My probably top song is going to be Bullet with Butterfly Wings. She's the one for me. She's all I really need. Yeah, she's the one. Happiness and loneliness and godliness and got it. Well, just like me. Or that's 1970. No, that's Zero. Bullet with Butterfly Wings. Yeah. Despite all my rage, I am still just a rat in the cage. I'm so out of date, I'm to say. And then, today is the day. And then, tonight's really beautiful, but you see that energy dips down. J.R. Brock, good song. Energy kind of lower, kind of subdued. Not a lot of harsh frequencies. It all blends and blurs. Shoegaze. Shoegaze is like rock for people who want it like softer. And so for me, I see shoegaze as a different way of getting to the Smiths. I think when you have so much effects and you slow down a tempo and you make something very pretty, you can either do that through a lot of harmonic frequency content, basically a lot of effects and distortion that's, very fuzzy. But at the end of the day, you can make something very pretty sounding. It's kind of lavish. That's kind of lush, like a bed of spring flowers with all the little pretty colors coming through. And you're like, this is nice and this is pleasant. Very different from, oh my God, I'm falling out of the sky skydiving. That's high intensity, right? But I think shoegaze and like stuff like the Smiths, a lot of indie music and shoegaze is usually things that are on the borderline here on intensity between punk and indie and rock and pop. It's usually this intensity level, right? I just prefer this. I prefer this. This is my preference. This is my bias. This is what's good. And it seems like 98% of what people make is not that. Either they make that, or that. I want that. This is great. Learn how to write a catchy song from this person. This is great. Learn how to make something with energy from this person. You're not doing anything right. You're not doing anything right. You're not doing it. If you're there, you're not doing anything right. It's a bad neighborhood. That's like pulling up in the hood and you just got, you're pulling up in your Mercedes Benz and you get out of the car. You're a pencil neck, Johnny Pencil Neck. See, here's the thing. Just going to go on a little tangent. You don't want to be a pencil neck. So if you're shorter, if you're below 5'9", I'm 5'7". No! I'm 5'7" or whatever, right? So I can't be emaciated and weak and frail. I have to be strong. And here's the nice thing. My arms are actually my weakest body part in terms of amount of muscle development. But, you got to hit them with the arms. You got to hit them, I've been working on the arms a little bit, mostly working on my squat and my bench and my deadlift and my back and my chest and my pectorals. All of this. But no, if you got to, boom, 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 boom. If you're wearing, anything that's not a baggy, even a baggy t-shirt. Sometimes I wear a baggy t-shirt. I'm like, I look bigger in this baggy t-shirt, more jacked. But anyways, you don't want to be pencil neck. Don't want to be lame. You don't want to be emaciated. There is a good thing you can learn from people like Keith Richards and Sting and Lenny Kravitz. It's like, work out a ton and be a musician. You're never going to regret it. Like, if you hate whatever workout you're doing, yeah, okay, pick something you like. Basically, don't do this thing that a lot of musicians do, or whatever you are, even if you just like music. Don't do the thing where a lot of people do. They go, I can just be in, really bad health, but as long as I have something else, it's like, all it takes to, not be in bad health is you could literally just do a couple push-ups in your room every day before you go to bed. Or first thing you wake up, push-ups, push-ups, push-ups. That'll get you out of bed and moving and stuff. There's all sorts of stuff. You could pick literally anything, just anything physical. And if you just do it regularly, I really do. That is a good thing. You don't want to just be, because if you're here, you've got nothing, right? Let's say if this was a height and charisma axis. If I was permanently stuck here on height, actually, let's go. Average height for a man in America is 5'9". The standard deviation is 1.5 inches. So that would put me let's say here, right? Let's do let's add 4 to all these numbers and put a 5 foot in front of it, okay? So I'm right here, let's say then. Or let's just go 5'9". Okay, let's say I want to be in the punk zone. I like the punk zone. That's the best, because then I can have, or this metal zone, this metal catchiness. But if I'm stuck here, let's say at 7.5, there's nothing wrong with that, Led Zeppelin, maybe Royal Blood, Rage Against the Machine's around there, some System of a Down's around there. Usually the system's a little higher. But let's say I'm stuck here. I'm stuck here at 5'7". Oh gosh, I can't move anywhere. But at least I can get as catchy as possible. Duh. Like I was talking about Anthrax earlier. Anthrax usually ends up right about here. Right? I love a lot of the things they have going on, and they have good potential. And so I feel similarly, because what I think is if you just look at the top 10 songs from Smashing Pumpkins and you average them out, you might get something in this range. You might get something here, right? But if you do it like top 40, top 50, top 80, it's still going to be pretty darn catchy. It might now, if you really cast a wide net, it might get to like an average might be like a 6.8. Most bands, that ends up happening, especially with the 50/50 catalog, it might end up as you put more and more of the catalog in. It's probably still going to be relatively here for a while as you average songs in terms of catchiness. The catchiness isn't going to slide back that quick, but it gets less. It gets less energetic and less catchy. And I don't like that. It's not my preference, right? And so I did react to a video. I made a video called F You, Billy Corgan. And the whole concept behind that video, and you guys can watch that, I mean, I really crashed out in that one. If you thought this was zany, I crashed out in that one. Basically, Bilford Corgan, Bilford Corgi, Billy Corgi. Look at me, I'm Billy Corgi. I need a face for the thumbnail. I need to make a face. Guys, come on, you. I'm talking to you. I literally am talking to you. So that's not even a joke. I'm talking to you. You see my ass, girl. You see my stacked jack cycle and see what it was right. Oh, am I wearing my watch? Should I go grab my watch? I have to go leave for dinner in 5 minutes. What am I doing? What's going on with me? Let's get back to the list. So, basically, let's just get back to the facts and figures. Facts don't care about your feelings. No. So, let's see. So, despite all my rage, and then 1979, that shakes a one for me. No, that's, or a zero. I don't remember. These are all good ones. These are the, wait, no, 1979 is not, it's the slower, lower energy one. Yeah, and then, Jelly Belly is good. And Ode to No One is, like, good, but the catchiness, dude, write the song, don't write some big jam-out thing that's fun. Write something that's catchy and fun. Everlasting Gaze, One and All. I had to, like, stretch for these two. I had to go through a lot of other songs and stuff I hadn't heard before to try and find some that were still kind of energetic to really give it, so I'm not just putting them at the lowest energy. So if you really want to, when you're listening to, basically that put them at an 8.9 in terms of catchiness, so basically like a 9, and then they're like a 6.9 in terms of energy. So most people, when they think of the Smashing Pumpkins, if they think of any of those kind of top songs, on average, it's going to put them in the rock zone, right? The instant you go out of those top songs, it goes down and it goes slightly in, and it probably stays in the pop zone, slowly goes into indie. As you average over the entire catalog, maybe you get something, here at a 3 or a 4, and like a 5.8 or something, right? So yeah, where's the controversy? Oh, I made another chart. There's a chart called, Controversy Arbitrage with Kerfuffles. And basically the thing is, if people use controversy, it's not even a lot of times it's because if a band's super controversial or there's something very controversial about them, the only way they basically don't get kind of like canceled in terms of like actually canceled, like people can outrage, but the outrage isn't big enough. Like I'll give a great example is Rage Against the Machine. I call that their, controversy arbitrage with kerfuffles, or something like that. Oh, controversy arbitrage weaponized kerfuffles. Controversy arbitrage weaponized kerfuffles. CAWK, cock for short. So if your controversy is really big, you have a fat cock. But it doesn't, it doesn't fit your body of work. If your cock is too big for your body, that can be the end of you. But if you have a solid enough body, a solid enough foundation that can, match the cock. No, but so Rage Against the Machine is a great example. They're like all the lyrics are like socialist, communist, but the music's so good that even like police officers and like military people are blasting it with the lyrics. Fuck you, I won't do what you tell me. The cop with the badge. Fuck that dude with the badge. Literally, the dude with the badge is listening to it because it's that catchy. It's that good. It's undeniable. And so if your body of work is that undeniable, you can withstand the controversy. The problem, and so but I think that's where we get into a problem here with Smashing Pumpkins. I'm sorry that I don't have the cock chart drawn up for you, but basically, it really is that concept. When you look at this catalog, what's the difference between Rage Against the Machine and Smashing Pumpkins? Rage Against the Machine's catalog doesn't have any songs in this slop zone, right? They don't. But see this? Songs in the slop zone, even number, right? Same number. Your catalog is not strong enough for controversy. And now, what's Billy Corgan's level of controversy? Billy Corgan has a reputation for thinking he is the greatest thing ever since sliced bread in the 1930s. Probably not the 1930s, probably like 1812 or some shiznit. No, probably like 1500s, 1400s. How long did it take to figure out to cut bread? I mean, they had swords in the medieval times, so the Dark Ages, when was that? 12th century? No, it's gotta be, right? When was Alexandria? I don't know. Library Alexandria burned. You get into the Dark Ages, yada, yada, yada. But let's say at least probably 12th, 13th century, they must have had bread, and they had knives, right? Well, they did have bread for sure. We know they had barley, Mesopotamia. Anyway, this is really important for your Smashing Pumpkins analysis. No, but basically, because all I was going to say is, normally I would say their controversy level's low, but because Billy Corgan has a lot of controversy weaponized kerfuffles, which is just perception of Billy Corgan having a big ego, that people go, hey, your catalog's not good enough for you to be this cocky, right? There's a reason everyone still listens to Michael Jackson, even though there's heinous allegations. Now some people say the record companies put those allegations out to tank him. None of those are actually backed up, yada, yada, yada. I don't know. I haven't done the deep dive on it. I haven't done the deep dive on it. I haven't done the deep dive on the Michael Jackson situation. But that is an example where, though the general conscious controversy is really bad, the catalog is so good. The quality is so high, and the amount of high quality is so high that people still listen. They're like, it's like, I believe I can fly. We know that guy pissed on an underage girl. You know what? Allegedly that happened. I honestly haven't looked into all these things the highest level, but I doubt you have either. But that's the I Believe I Can Fly, Ray J. That's the allegation, but that song is still good. It's still a good song. We know Diddy did crazy stuff. I'm not going to just stop listening to Bring the Cavassier. Ballin', ballin', and it looked like that was swollen. Friggin' Justin Timberlake and whoever on that song. Pass the Cavassier. Yeah. I'm not going to stop listening to good rap songs that had Diddy's involvement just because of those allegations. If the song's good enough, right? People still listen to Smashing Pumpkins even though they perceive Bilford Corgus as having an inflated anus, right? And almost, becoming overtaken by the inflation of his anus, and succumbs, his whole body gets engulfed by the anus, and he just is a walking, talking. Hey, you know what you think, but yeah. What else should I talk about next? If I have a second, I might do a Nirvana video right now. Anyways, Latinos, hit me up, Austin, Texas. And yeah, if you like the video, subscribe, comment if there's other things you want to hear me talk about. I think the next video should be Nirvana. She's the one that likes to shoot his gun, and he likes to sing along, but he don't know what it means. He don't know what it means, and I say, bow. Oh, by the way, Jelly Belly's really good. No to No One is really good. The guitar sounds on this record are really solid. I really like that. Anyways, see you in the next video.